Hello, my name is Amy Campbell, and I am the Compliance Director and a Supervising Broker for the Keller Williams Denver Downtown office. And this video will show you the command opportunities process and how to upload and submit your documents to the brokerage for review and approval so you can get paid at closing. So I will share my screen throughout the video so you can actually see command, and we'll walk through the process step by step from creating that initial opportunity to submitting to the office all the way through final approval, and hopefully answer all of your questions along the way. So what is a command opportunity? So think of your opportunities part of your command as your file cabinet. So it is where we will store all of our required documents and files for every transaction that we're required to keep by law for a certain amount of time. So once upon a time, real estate was done with real paper and everything was signed with a real pen, and we kept actual file folders of everything. And now we require or rely on technology to do that. So think of opportunities as your file cabinet. And so for every transaction that you have, you will create a new opportunity. So the first thing you want to do, so step one, when you get a new client and you have a signed exclusive right to buy or exclusive right to sell, is go to your command homepage, which is what you see right here. Hopefully I'm doing this correctly. And you will click on this contacts button over here. So the second icon down, and open your contacts, and you will add a contact. Let me move my video down here out of the way. Okay, so we're going to add contact here. And then you just fill in the required information. Name, email, you can fill in anything with red asterisks is required. The more information you fill in here, the better that you can kind of manage your command and use it as a true CRM. It's very powerful. So the more information you have in here, the better. But just to initially create that contact, you only need a full name, and then I believe a contact. Actually, you might not even need an email, but I recommend you should always have an email and a phone number for someone. So go ahead and put those in, and then you'll hit save. And then you can go to your opportunities section. So about halfway down, you see the two hands shaking, and that's opportunities. If you hover over it, it'll tell you what it is. Click on that, and this will open essentially our file cabinet. And at the top right, you will see create an opportunity. So go ahead and click on create opportunity. And again, anything with a red asterisk is required. Some of the information will be auto-populated for you. So your market center, what type of opportunity. So if you click on this, this is where you will choose listing, buyer, if it's a landlord or tenant. So for this training, let's go ahead and do a listing. And then who owns that. If you're on a team, you can assign different owners. And then who your client is. So if you've already entered in your contact in that contact section, all you have to do is start typing here, and all of your potential contacts with that name will come up, and you just click on that contact. If there is a co-seller, you can add that in here, and then your opportunity name. So for listings, you already know what the property is. So generally, I recommend putting in an address here as the opportunity name. If it's a buyer opportunity and they have not yet chosen a property, you won't know a property address yet. So typically, I'll just put the buyer's name. If you know the address at the time you're creating the opportunity, that's always helpful to add. Because if you need to search for, or if I need to search for an opportunity, and the address is in that name, it's way easier and faster to find. Okay. So there's additional information that you can fill in. Some of it you don't have to. If you already know an estimated closing date, your time frame for the process until they close, what the commission rate is. So depending on what opportunity you select, if you select buyer opportunity, some of this information may not, it may not ask you for that right away. But if it's a listing, then you typically know what your commission rate will be. And I guess now with the new commission rules with a buyer, you actually will know at the time you sign that exclusive right to buy, you will know what your commission rate is, because that is something that needs to be stipulated on that exclusive right to buy. And it needs to be specific and exact. So we're just going to put in 3.2 here for our listing. And then there's an opportunity phase. So you can choose what phase of the opportunity or what phase of the process you are in with that client, and then what stage. And so those two things will determine kind of where it automatically gets put in your sales pipeline, which you can kind of see behind me. But it doesn't really matter what you put there. You can always drag and drop or move them to different phases or stages. Okay. So then you can click create. Okay, so now we have created our opportunity. So you see our opportunity name up here on the upper left, and there will be several tabs that you'll see up across the top of the opportunity. So the first thing you want to do when you get to this screen is this key information box. All of these boxes have these little pencils that you can click on and edit that information. So you can come in here and edit or change any information that it was put in incorrectly, or you need to update throughout the process. And so after you double check that key information is correct, you want to click on the pencil for the property. So again, if this is a listing, you already know this information. If it's a buyer, you may not already know the address. So you can do this at the time you know the address. And please remember to always fill in this property information and put the address there. That really helps when we're in the review process and seeing what the address is and making sure the correct documents are in the file, and someone didn't accidentally upload documents from a different address or a different transaction into the file. So you go ahead and just fill out all the, again, required information. Let's see if there's a 123 Main Street in Broomfield, Colorado. There we go. Okay, so again, it takes 2 seconds, super easy, because addresses do auto-populate once you start typing them with the zip code and the county and all of that. So there's a ton more information that you can add here if you choose to. And so this can be something that over time you can decide if it's useful to you to use this to manage the transaction, or potentially have a transaction coordinator who does this for you, and you can kind of choose how to use the rest of the information on here if you want to or not, but it is not required. All that I require here is that property address. So once you have that and you're ready to upload your documents, you're going to click on the Documents tab up here. So the first thing you want to do is click on this drop down that says Pick Checklist Type, and you're going to choose residential or commercial. It's residential listing. That will upload a template for the file. So you can see here that we're going to call these folders. So let's call them, the entire opportunity is our file. And within the file, we have different folders. We have a folder for our listing documents, a folder for our under contract documents, and a closed folder for all of our closed documents. So in the listed folder, you'll see all of these placeholders. So there's no actual documents in the file currently. These are just placeholders, and you can use it as a guideline or essentially a checklist of what you need for every transaction. So think of it as a cheat sheet. If you're a newer agent and you're still learning what documents, like, oh my gosh, I need so many different documents, I don't want to forget anything. What documents do I need for my listing? Create your opportunity and look at the Documents tab, and it tells you. So there's a list of all the documents, and it'll tell you right next to them if it's required or if it's conditional. Next to each requirement status, there's a little information circle. So if you hover over that, there's a little note there that either tells you about why it's required, or if it's conditional, tells you when it is required, or conditionally required. So for this one, the source of water, it says note seller signature only. So at the time of the listing contract, before you have a buyer, only the seller's signature is going to be on that document, not the buyer's. And the condition when required is if the source of water information is not included or not filled in on the seller's property disclosure. So if it's not filled in on this document, then this one is required. Okay. So you can scroll down and hover over all of these to learn more about them and to see what's required. And then the conditional ones, again, read through those. Sometimes it's applicable, sometimes it's not, depending on your transaction. For example, lead-based paint. It says condition, properties built prior to 1978. Sometimes I get a question of the property was built in 1978. Is it required then? And I always follow the rule that you really can't be too safe, right? It's better to have it signed when maybe it didn't really need it than to maybe get in trouble later on because it was deemed that it was needed and we didn't execute it. So for those properties that are built in 1978, even though the rule says prior to 1978, I still have the lead-based paint executed just to be safe. So if you scroll down, you'll see additional placeholders for amendments that you may have with a listing contract. If you're taking a listing that's lower than 5.6% total commission, then technically our brokerage requirements say that you need written approval from either Justin or Britt to lower that commission, and you can add that document here. It can just be an email. It doesn't have to be anything formal. And so if you continue to scroll down, it's kind of a list of most commonly or most common documents that may be involved in a transaction. Obviously, all of these conditional ones you're not going to have them most of the time, but the placeholder's there. If it does apply, then it's easy to add it to that placeholder. So to add a document to a placeholder, there's a couple of things you can do. You can drag and drop a file here. And it has to be a PDF. So if the file is not in PDF format, you can change the format of the document so you can easily add it. It needs to be in a PDF. So you can drag and drop, or you can click the browse button, which will open your computer files, and you can choose the file from there. And so you can just add the documents as you have them. And once you have the required documents, and once you add things, the Submit to MC button or Submit to Market Center will be available. It's not available right now because I haven't added anything. But once you have a signed contract, regardless if you have your disclosure signed or not, go ahead and submit it to the Market Center. Technically, we require, once you have that contract signed, whether it's a buyer listing, a seller listing, or a contract to buy and sell, that be submitted to the Market Center within 72 business hours. So as soon as you have that, go ahead and get it in your command and hit that Submit to Market Center button, even if you don't have all of the documents for a complete file. So what will happen if you don't have the complete file yet is the documents that you do submit will be reviewed by me. I am the one who will be on the other end looking at all of your files. And if something is missing, I'll mark it as missing and return the file. So we can do that multiple times until the file is complete and can be approved. Once you go under contract and you have that fully executed contract to buy and sell, you can click on the under contract folder, and similar situation as the other folder is if you scroll down, you'll see all of the placeholders of Potentially required documents. It tells you if they're required or not, and if they're conditional, when you do need to add them. So everything that you should need will be in this placeholder list. If you have a document that you would like to add to a file that does not have a placeholder, it's very easy to add. You can add any document to any file at any time. Just because there's not a placeholder doesn't mean you shouldn't add it. Again, think of this as your transaction file, and you want to keep record of everything and every piece of paper with information on it that was involved in that transaction. Because if you ever needed to provide that documentation to somebody in the future, it's all in one place, and you don't have to go scouring through emails 2 years down the road and try to dig up old documents. So in order to add a document that doesn't have a placeholder for it, all you need to do is click these three dots over here, which pulls up a drop-down menu, and add document. And from here, you can name the document, you can choose a document type, you can add notes about the document, and then you can, again, drag or drop or click the browse your files on your computer and add it that way. So again, any document that you wish to add to your file, please do. The more information you add in a file, the better you are protected if there was ever a dispute or if you are ever audited. Okay, the last tab over here on the left side, or the last folder, is your closed folder. So same deal. The only difference with this tab is the top 3 placeholders are for DAs, or disbursement authorization. And that is something that will be added by the office. So you won't add documents to those placeholders. Those will be added for you. Typically you only need one. So after your file is completely approved, so your listing or buyer folder is approved and the under contract folder is approved, then usually within 24 to 48 business hours, your DA will be uploaded for you. So once you get the notification that your file's been approved, then usually it's within that 24 business hour period. Check back into this closed folder, and your DA should be there for you to download and provide to the title company. So what that document does is it gives authorization to the title company to pay you as the agent directly at closing. So by law, commissions are always paid to the brokerage, right? Commissions are paid at a broker level. And so if you don't have a DA, all commissions will be paid to Keller Williams Realty Downtown. What the DA does is it tells the title company that Keller Williams Realty Downtown is giving permission to the title company to pay you as the agent directly at closing. And it tells them all the exact numbers on who to pay what amounts. So you will find that here. The 2 optional detailed DA ones, sometimes you'll need an updated or to edit a DA if a price changes or the commission changes or a referral fee wasn't added or something like that. So those are just additional placeholders in case needed, but a lot of times they won't be needed. So again, use this as a checklist for what documents are required for your closing docs. The title company will provide you with the closing documents that are signed and executed after closing. And typically they provide them in one PDF. Some title companies are very nice and scan them separately, and they're all in individual PDFs, which make it a little bit easier to upload them here. We do ask that you upload them individually, so it's easy to see when we open a file if we have all the required documents or not. If all the documents are in that one PDF and we have to go through and check one by one to make sure that they're all there, it just takes a lot of time. So if you can upload them individually, that is preferred into their individual placeholders. If you have a transaction that has something unusual about it, or there's just something that you want to communicate to me when I'm reviewing it, for example, if it's a transaction that doesn't have an inspection objection or inspection resolution, or one of the typically required documents isn't a part of that transaction for whatever reason, a seller decided not to provide a seller property disclosure, or there's just something that is unusual about it that would typically require me to return that file to you, the best way to communicate with me is to use this add comments box. So if you click on this, you can type a message here, and if you hit the app button, it will bring up the leadership's names, and you can tag somebody to send that message directly to them. So typically my name would be shown here as well. It's not because I'm in my own account, but if you needed to send a message to me about a document that is marked as required but isn't included in that particular transaction, you can write that here. If you need to send a message to Britt or to Sharon, so Sharon is the one who handles all the DAs. Please don't send me messages about DAs or asking me to change information on DAs. I do not have access to the DA system. I do not handle the DAs. If you wanted me to send you one, I couldn't. So Sharon is the one who handles most of those. And if you have a DA question or need to make a change after a DA has already been issued and uploaded, the best way to get the fastest response is to email compliance@kwdowntown.com. So compliance@kwdowntown.com. And that is the fastest way to get a DA changed, or just ask a question, or if you're having a problem submitting your commissions tab, which we are going to talk about in just a minute. So for communicating about the transaction, or just to leave notes about it, again, this is a record-keeping system. If you want there to be a note about something that happened or something that was unusual, or just to make keep a record of a conversation you had, you can use this comments box to do that, and that will be there forever. So if there's ever a question in the future, you can go back and say, I don't quite remember what happened, but let me look at if I added any comments here and what that says. Okay. After you go under contract and all parties have executed the contract to buy and sell, and you upload your documents and you submit them, then you can click on this Offers and Commissions tab. So you will need to fill this out, and this tells the office how the commission is to be paid or be split. So you can, and because I don't actually have a transaction here, I'm not sure how far I'll be able to get in here to show you as an example, but let's see. Okay, so residential property, if it's a resale or a new construction, total units. So if you were doing a co-listing and splitting the commission with another agent, you could put, never mind. This is not the place to do that. So you just put one here, put the actual total units here. There is a place in the next screen to split commission or pay referral fees. Okay. So it does ask you, so the cash plus finance amount. So it's going to ask you to enter in how much cash the buyer brought to the table, meaning what their down payment was. And that is helpful for the Keller Williams AI system to kind of analyze what is common and what's the average down payment that buyers are putting down. So let's just say we put $100,000. Oops. Down. Okay. Oh, it doesn't like that. There we go. Okay, so the auto fills the financed amount. You can put in information about the earnest money if you would like. It's not required, but what is required is the closing date. Okay. Let's see. Oh, sorry, contract date as well. I'm just trying to think through if this is going to mess up our DA system. So yeah, it doesn't like my fake property address. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to actually force my way into here for the commissions tab, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you get to the next screen, it'll ask what the commission amount is, and if you need to split that commission with another broker or add a referral fee. It's pretty clear on where that goes. If you get to that point and you don't know what to do, feel free to reach out to the office and we can absolutely help you through that process. Okay, what happens if you have a contract that terminates? This is a very common situation, and a lot of questions I get are around this situation. So if you have a listing that has gone under contract and you've added all your documents to the under contract folder and submitted it for review, and then it terminates, there are two placeholders for your notice to terminate and your earnest money release that you will add there and then submit for approval. And then instead of creating a whole new opportunity, you can still use the same opportunity, and I'm going to show you how you add the documents for the next contract that the sellers accept. So we don't want to delete or get rid of or replace any of the documents for that terminated transaction. We need to keep those for record keeping purposes. So when the seller does accept a new contract, you will click on that under contract folder, and then this down arrow will open a drop down, and you will click add version, and you can title the new version. You can, with the buyer's name, put offer 2, whatever you want to name that new under contract folder, but you can create as many new under contract folders as you need. So that way, all of your listing documents and the opportunity for that transaction stay the same. You don't have to have duplicates. You don't need to repeat the work. You can just create new under contract folders so everything is in the same place and organized. For the buyer side, so there's a little bit of a difference if you have a buyer that goes under contract and then terminates. You can still do this same process, but what I have seen is sometimes there's a little bit of difficulty because you're changing the address with all of the opportunity details, and if you've already submitted your commissions tab, it can create a little bit of difficulty in changing that information. So you can choose, if you have a buyer who goes under contract and terminates, you can choose to create a whole new opportunity and keep it separate and keep each opportunity its own property address. Or you can, if it will let you change the property address and that details tab and your opportunity name, then you can still do that same process where you create a new version of the under contract. So you have your buyer, this one would be a buyer file or folder, and then this one you can create as many versions of the under contract folder as you need. Okay, so now the screen that you are seeing is actually the screen that I see when I'm reviewing files. So that's why it may look a little bit different. So this is on the back end of the brokerage side within Command. So this is one of my past files that has closed. I just want to show you kind of what it looks like on my side and show you a couple of things to look for after you've submitted a file for review. So you can see this was a buyer file. So I have my consultation documents, or my consultation folder, my under contract folder, closed folder. So I will go through after you submit a file for review and look at each document to make sure that all the pertinent information has been filled in and that it's signed by all required parties. If there's ever something that's missing from a document, I will hit this reject document button and you will get notified once I've returned that folder for those changes. So a folder will not be fully approved until every single document has an approved status next to it. So if it's been returned, it'll say returned and be in red here. So you can easily scroll through the documents list and see what document has been returned. And then there will be a little message, which because these are all approved, that's not the case, but there will be a message icon that you can click on that will give you information on why that document has been returned. So all you need to do is make those changes and then we'll hit submit for review again. So you can make changes and resubmit a file as many times as needed to get it fully approved so you can get that DA. So let's talk about timelines. Everyone wants to get paid at closing, right? We want our money as quickly as possible most of the time. And so if you want to get paid at closing, timing is of the essence to make sure you submit all of the required documents to the office and have time for them to be reviewed and approved. Like I said before, try to submit it as quickly as possible after you get those initial signatures. And again, if you don't have to have all of the disclosures signed right away, submit what you have so we can get the process started, the review process, and then it's a lot quicker to get that file approved once you add those additional supporting documents. If you're submitting your file for review or resubmitting it for review the day before closing, you are probably not going to have a DA to give to the title company to get paid at closing. Okay, so if check the status of your files, put it in your calendar, say at least 5 days prior to closing. If that file has not been fully approved, do what needs to be done to resubmit it so you can have time to get it fully approved and get the DA. So once you submit a file for review, it can take up to 48 business hours. So 2 business days for it to be reviewed and approved. I'm the only one who does that review process. And depending on the volume that I receive in files submitted in a given day or given week, it can take sometimes up to 2 business days for me to get through them all. And I do I do review the files in order that they were submitted. So if you submit a file and message me and say, hey, can you look at this right away? Typically, no, because I'm reviewing them in order that they were submitted. So it can take up to 48 business hours to get that approved. And then it takes an additional, usually 24 business hours for that DA to be uploaded. So I would say the very latest 3 days prior to closing, you should have everything approved. Okay. If you don't, then you may not have a DA in time for closing, which is okay. You don't have to have a DA in order to close. If you don't have a DA to provide to the title company on the day of closing, you can do one of 2 things. First, you can tell the title company, you know what, hold my commission until I get that DA, and then you can pay me my check directly. Or tell them to wire transfer the entire commission to the brokerage, which most big title companies will have that those wire transfer instructions to send it to Keller Williams Realty Downtown. So they send the whole commission to the brokerage, and then Britt will issue your check and give that to you. Usually put it in your mail file in the office, or if you want her to mail it through the post office, they can do that as well. So just communicate to both the title company and to Britt how you want to handle your commission if you don't have that DA on the day of closing. But again, to reiterate, if you want to get paid at closing, I would say no later than 3 days prior to that closing date, make sure that your file has been approved. If it hasn't, then get it submitted as soon as possible. And we will do everything we can to get you your DA, but we have a very high volume of files in our brokerage, so it can just take some time to get through everything. One last thing I want to go over is a few of these specific documents that are in the placeholder lists that I often get questions about. So the first one is this full active MLS PDF printout. So again, if you hover over the information button, it will tell you, or realist printout if not an MLS. But this document, it's just a usually 1 or 2 page full active MLS printout. So you go to the MLS when it's an active status and click the print button and choose the full listing information document. And that's what we want to see here. There is a similar one in the under contract folder, but it asks for the pending one. So we want to see the pending printout in the under contract folder. The next document that people have questions about a lot is the RMT, Affiliated Business Disclosure Form. RMT stands for Rocky Mountain Title, and so that is our affiliated business disclosure that is required by law to provide to all parties in a transaction because it is a closing services company that Keller Williams Realty Downtown has a ownership interest in. So again, it's required to be provided to all parties in the transaction. So not just your clients. If you're working with the sellers, you have to provide it to the buyer side, and vice versa. If you're working with buyers, you also have to provide it to the seller. We get a lot of questions about why do we need to provide this form? We're not using Rocky Mountain Title for this transaction. It does not matter that you're not using Rocky Mountain Title. We still have to disclose that we have an affiliated relationship with this company. It is not required that any party sign the document. It is just a disclosure. By law, we have to provide it. If any party chooses not to sign it, there is a page 2 that you can use as an agent acknowledgement, which says, I, as the agent, provided this document to the parties and they chose or declined to sign. That is absolutely okay. Use that agent acknowledgement on page 2 as kind of that easy button of, hey, I have provided it, they declined to sign. But the key piece is you must actually provide it. You have to send it to all parties. And if, again, there's questions on why they have to sign it, you can tell them it's up to them if they want to sign it or not. The signature is just receipt that they received it. If they say, no, thank you, I don't want to sign it, use the agent acknowledgement on page 2. This document can be found in CTM, and it's a little confusing because it has a different name in CTM, and I am not 100% sure why, but it is, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of our documents library in CTM, you can find it there. And I think it's titled AFBA in CTM. So if you just open it, it'll say Rocky Mountain Title on the actual top of that document. Okay, so hopefully that clears up what that requirement is. Back in the listing folder, so there's a few documents in here that are very common for agents not to submit, and it's a very common reason for me to have to return a file. and that is these 3 documents right here: showing instructions, seller net sheet, and the comparable market analysis, or CMA. The reason that we ask you to provide these documents is it's something that you should have with every listing transaction anyways. As a professional, these are 3 documents that you should always have if it's a fully listed property. So you're showing instructions. So you can print out, if you put specific showing instructions in the MLS, you can print out that page and add it here. Or if you're using showing time and have specific instructions in showing time for all agents that are showing the property, you can print out your showing time page and add that here. So again, showing instructions are important, right? If there's certain things that a seller wants to make sure are happening every time an agent shows the property, for example, please remove all shoes, please turn off all lights, please make sure all doors and windows are locked. The key is not in the normal, or the lockbox is not in the normal location. Any information communicated to agents that are showing the property, we want to keep record of that. And so that's what showing instructions are for there. The seller net sheet. This is an important one. This is one that a lot of agents don't include, or I see agents adding seller settlement statements here. And that is not the purpose of this placeholder. As a professional and a professional real estate consultant who's helping people sell their largest financial asset, we should be providing them with estimated costs and an estimated net sheet up front at the time of that listing contract. Everyone deserves to know the potential costs of and the estimated costs of selling their property up front. So that's what this net sheet is here for. It's more of a reminder that we want you to remember to provide this to every seller at the beginning of the transaction, but then also with every document and communication with our clients, we should be keeping record of that. So that's why this is here and that we ask for that. And again, it should not be that final seller settlement statement. That's way too late in the process. That's at closing. We want that estimated net sheet that you should provide every client up front of, hey, here, if you sell at this price, here's your estimated total commission amount. Here is an estimated title costs. Here is your tax payoff and HOA costs, all of those things line itemed out so they can see and they know what to expect. So there's no big surprises. And that is how you ensure client satisfaction. Managing expectations, especially with the numbers. Okay, and the next one is the CMA, comparable market analysis. This is, let's see here, technically required by the Real Estate Commission. So we want to keep record of how you price that property. What were the comps you used? What did you show the seller in those initial conversations about trying to price their property? Keep record of that. And most of the time, it's just that simple MLS download that you can do. You choose the comps that you're using and you click, quick CMA, and that is sufficient. If you provided something to the seller that's a little more elaborate, just add whatever you provided to them to price the property. Okay, so that's what that is there, and why we ask you for that document. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Oh, the buyer and seller advisory. So if it's a buyer file, it's a buyer advisory here. And this is an office required document. In CTM, there are 2 different advisories. There are the CAR provided ones, the Colorado Association of Realtors provides one, but that's not the one we want you to use. Our attorney, Damian Cox, has written very thorough advisories for us for every selling and buying scenario. So there's seller advisory residential, commercial and vacant land, and a buyer advisory for the same three situations. Please use the Damian Cox written versions of the advisories. And again, it is a CYA document. It's kind of a list of everything that is important for a buyer or seller to know in a transaction. And you should read that document too, because it is very helpful. Your signature as the agent is also required on that document. Okay, so if you forget to sign that, that is something that the file will be returned for. Okay, so those are kind of the main documents that I wanted to bring up that I get a lot of questions on. Again, if you have any questions at any time, feel free to reach out. You can reach out directly to me. My email is a.campbell, CAMPBELL, @kw.com. For DA questions, you can reach out to Sharon at compliance@kwdowntown.com. And you can also reach out to Britt at the office for any commission or market center operations questions that you have. Hopefully this video is helpful to you and you feel a little more comfortable and confident getting your documents uploaded and submitted to the office for approval. Please reach out at any time if you need any support. And thank you for watching. Have a great day.